This Sunday is Palm Sunday. It is the Sunday when we remember when Jesus came into Jerusalem upon a donkey. And the people got palm branches, threw them down in front of the donkey and shouted, Hosanna. I'd like us to consider this account. And the way that we will do so is by thinking about the account as recorded in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 21. Let me just remind you of the details. Jesus comes in to Jerusalem upon this donkey. People are very excited. There's lots of people in Jerusalem at the time. There is the Passover on, and there are so many people who have come specially for this Passover into Jerusalem. And then they see Jesus on the donkey, and they start taking some of their clothes and putting them in front of the donkey, and also cut palm branches. And they also throw these in front of the donkey which Jesus is riding. And they also start to shout out, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heaven. And some were asking, who is this? And other people were saying, the crowd was saying, this is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee. It's a famous account. And each year, churches remember this time when Jesus came into Jerusalem on this donkey. But have you ever wondered, why did he choose a donkey? He could have walked in. He could have gone on a cart. He could have come on a chariot or upon a horse. But Jesus chose to come on a donkey. Well, let me give you 3 reasons as to why Jesus came upon this donkey. First of all, it indicated his kingship. Those people who were there remembered the great king of the past. They were Jews. They remembered King David. And when King David came into Jerusalem, on one famous occasion, he came upon a donkey. And this donkey and riding a donkey was associated with royalty. And let's not forget that the Messiah, the anointed one, the one who was promised by the prophets, he was from the line of David. But there is also another reason, a second reason. This also indicated the nature of his kingdom. In Matthew's Gospel, he quotes from the prophet Zechariah. And Zechariah, speaking of Jerusalem, says, behold your king. Again, a reference to kingship that we've already mentioned. And then says, gentle and riding upon a donkey. When we think of Jesus' kingdom, he came not in to Jerusalem to overthrow the leaders, not to overthrow the Romans or to get rid of those Roman soldiers. He came not with violence, but his kingdom was spread with gentleness and peace. In fact, when we think about the spread of the gospel amongst the early church, the increase of Christ and God's kingdom, it was done through people going out and speaking and using persuasion with gentleness and love. But let's come also to consider a third reason why Jesus came upon a donkey, because it also indicates the type of leadership that he gives. He hasn't given a leadership where he's pushing people down, where he demands to be served. He has come to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. Earlier, he'd spoken to the disciples, and he reminded them that they're not to lord over each other like the Gentiles do. Obviously thinking of the Romans. And I'm sure some of you have seen films with the Romans and how they oppress people at times. No, that wasn't how leadership was to be done. But those amongst them, he said, who wished to be great, had to be a servant to all. Those who wished to be first needed to be a slave to all. So when we think about this, we realize that Jesus was putting forward a different type of leadership. In fact, he speaks of himself, using the phrase Son of Man, which was a way that Jesus often described himself. The Son of Man has not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Well, we think about this, but you say, well, that's interesting. How does that apply to me? Well, let's just apply these three things to ourselves. Jesus as King. We can ask ourselves, do we recognize his kingship? Do you? Do I? Are we ready to serve him and honor him and give him all the glory that is appropriate a king? As far as his kingdom, a kingdom which is spread in gentleness and peace. How do we communicate this great message of Jesus Christ? Certainly I hope that we try not to force it upon any. No, we go out with gentleness, with love, and a willingness to explain. We don't come in a high-handed or in an attitude that you must accept this with threats like that. No, we come with a gentle and peaceful manner, a manner of love and care for others. And also, thirdly, when we thought about his leadership, it reminds us that we also, when we lead, whether it be in the home, in the family, in the school, in the workplace, or in the church, we're not to look out for our own interests, to get other people to do what we want. We're also to look out and be concerned for others, to seek to serve rather than be served. To seek to, like Jesus did when we came into Jerusalem. He came there willing to offer his life as a sacrifice, as we understand from other passages, to deliver men and women from death and sin. So likewise, we're to be willing in a similar type of way, to be willing to offer ourselves to others, to serve other people. What can we say as we look at these, what we've just said? We reminded ourselves that Jesus coming on a donkey is because he's a king, because of the nature of his kingdom, one of gentleness and peace, and also it shows the type of leadership that he offers. Let's just end by this Palm Sunday. We remember when Jesus came as a king upon a donkey entering into Jerusalem.